Okay, we're going to cover the history of E.T. the Extra-Terrestrial, and we're going to start off by briefly going over Steven Spielberg in a little career overview. The man.
Thank you for loving me.
Oh, again, because you have the image of Linda Belcher when she says, "All right," that's what I think it is every time.
Damn it. Okay.
Sorry, soundboard mishap.
Steven Spielberg was born in 1946. He's 5'8". And as a kid, he lived in Cincinnati and then New Jersey and then Phoenix. We are going to cover The Fabelmans later this summer.
Army brat? Like,
Nope,
why?
nope.
Okay.
We are going to cover The Fabelmans, and we'll talk more about sort of his childhood, because that movie is
Right.
very much just a biography of his life. But E.T., which was made in 1982 and which Spielberg calls his most personal film, it was basically the culmination of this ridiculous miracle run he had to open up his career. So we'll talk about that stretch. He got his start working on television at age 23, working on a show called Night Gallery starring Joan Crawford. And Joan Crawford was very impressed with him and was sort of a supporter of his and helped boost him at the start of his career. He worked in TV. He was writing and directing on shows like Columbo, and Universal signed him to a 4-picture deal to make television movies for them, starting with a movie called Duel. And Duel is usually considered his first movie because even though it's a TV movie, it was very successful. It's critically well received, and the studio loved it so much they had him shoot additional scenes so that they could release it theatrically overseas. As such, I included it in my Spielberg movie rankings. And Duel, if you haven't, go see Duel. Duel is great. It's like Jaws but with a truck. And then he makes his first feature film, The Sugarland Express, starring Goldie Hawn and William Atherton. This was where he meets John Williams, who does almost all of the music for his movies and some of the most iconic movie themes ever, like Indiana Jones and Jaws and Jurassic Park and E.T.
Hook. All of them sound... Hook does have an... Get out of my face. Whatever.
Are we going to be doing Hook this summer?
Fuck no.
Hook was our very second episode of the show.
Our very second.
Hook was the second episode of our show. And during that episode, Lacey said, "I'm bored talking about this." Okay, Sugarland Express, critically well received, but it was not a big hit. He moves on to his next movie, Jaws, and it was a famously difficult production.
Never heard of it.
But it was an unprecedented hit, the highest grossing movie ever made up to that point. Set off the modern era of blockbuster movies.
Hey, Matt, the J in Jaws is a hook.
Whoa.
Like for fishing.
And like the movie.
Did you notice that?
Never noticed it.
Then why'd you say the movie?
Like the movie Hook.
Oh, okay. All right. But also, what's the most upsetting part of this poster to you, if there are any? The Jaws poster.
What, the naked woman?
No one would be upset by that.
Okay.
I'll answer it. Too many rows of teeth. Look at the teeth. Look at the fucking...
No.
I mean, I get it. That's a shark thing. But look at just on the left side, the 3 rows.
But it's not rows. They just have teeth coming in behind their...
Can you make the photo go away?
Oh, okay.
Like, I'm sick to my stomach. It's a tryptophobia, I guess, situation.
Okay. After Jaws, the world is his oyster, and he follows that up with Close Encounters of the Third Kind, another smash hit. He got his first Oscar nomination for Best Director for it. We covered this movie on the show on episode 42, and we will be recovering it this summer with our friend Drew.
I remember liking it.
I re-listened to the episode. You said it's good, but I don't like it, basically.
I just remember I love Richard Dreyfuss. Maybe I'm wrong.
Richard Dreyfuss just did a bunch of homophobic and transphobic
Damn
remarks.
it!
I know. And it's the first words of our theme song. We don't like the man.
We just like the mashed potatoes.
We just like the potatoes and the Jaws. Okay, after that, Spielberg began producing and executive producing movies for other filmmakers, starting with Robert Zemeckis on his debut movie, I Want to Hold Your Hand. And then Robert Zemeckis and his partner, Bob Gale, wrote Spielberg's next movie, 1941. This was a comedy. Spielberg was nervous to do a comedy.
A World War II
Yeah.
comedy.
And he should have been, because I hate this movie. It sucks.
People asked us to do this movie, though, when they found out it was Summer of Spielberg. Was it people who liked the movie or who just think it'd be an interesting conversation?
I definitely heard from one of our friends who said he really liked it. Now, I've only seen this movie once. I think that Spielberg is not good at comedy, and like a comedy that's not well done can be really awkward.
True, it is. However, you would have watched all these in
Order.
or and it's sandwiched between two of your very favorites. So yeah, I mean, but yeah.
Then that did happen. Is like, do I consider this his worst movie when he has so many bad ones to come?
Oh,
I don't know.
Okay.
I just know it's like his sense of comic energy for such an anarchic movie, he just didn't have the handle on it at all.
That's interesting because I think of Raiders as a comedy. I know it's adventure first, but comedy, it's almost tied to for me. But maybe that's just because I remember Harrison Ford is funny no matter what.
No, it's
adventure.
It has funny moments, but it's not. I mean, it's a comedy like Star Wars is a comedy.
I don't know. It's the smirk on Indy's face. He always seems like he's about to tell you something sarcastic or like fuck with you or whatever, and then do something cool.
But 1941 is like, if you put it into a video store shelf, you'd put it in comedy. And does he have any other movies that are that?
You're
like maybe The Terminal with Tom Hanks at the airport.
The Terminal's a comedy?
I mean, it's like a romantic sort of like, whimsical. Victor Navorsky's talking in that accent.
Okay.
That Coke stuff.
I don't feel informed enough to help you with this.
Should we watch The Terminal?
Yeah.
And then he rebounds by working with George Lucas on Raiders of the Lost Ark, another smash, all-time smash. It's insane to do. He
needed to get a little bit of fucking humility. Can you imagine if he didn't have the down slope of 1941? I mean, you can't just have hit after hit or I don't know what kind of, you're not fun to work with anymore, probably.
Yeah. And like, it was still a commercial hit. Like, it did well. It's just people didn't like it. But like,
interesting.
He doesn't have a real flop until Amistad, maybe. But like Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom made a little bit less money than Raiders, and people thought it wasn't as good as Raiders, and I think that to him was like a devastating rebuke.
They thought maybe he did it. I'm sorry, I'm very much dyslexic today. Did they think he did it cynically? Help me.
Cynically?
Yes, like a money grab situation. Because I thought that one was really good.
No, I think that they thought it was too dark, too weird, too much of a.
He does go a little weird.
Just swing and a miss. It is very weird. But it's just like in this stretch, the first 20 years of his career or whatever, if the low points are Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom and like, I don't know.
1941.
Yeah.
Okay.
Then you're doing okay.
Doing all right.
Okay. So E.T., the origins of E.T. And again, we're leaning on this book that I mentioned, Spielberg, The First 10 Years. This guy, Laurent Bouzereau, directs a lot of Steven Spielberg material for like special features on his DVDs. So this is kind of like an authorized source, and it feels like you're reading a DVD special feature, but it still has some good interviews with him. And Spielberg said this, quote, E.T. sort of came about in stages for me, including toying with the idea of the alien from Close Encounters staying behind on Earth, while Roy, the character played by Richard Dreyfuss, goes off in space as some kind of foreign exchange between Earthlings and extraterrestrials. But I really couldn't find a way to justify this, and it was frustrating not being able to realize that concept. Maybe that was really the reason why I eventually made E.T. And then he went on to say, I was feeling a little bit separated from myself, which often happens when while he was directing Raiders of the Lost Ark, which was filmed in Tunisia in Northern Africa. He said, quote, I was feeling a little bit separated from myself, which often happens when you're directing. You can go into a kind of fugue state to make a movie. And I was in one of my fugue states when suddenly, bang, this concept hit me. I knew exactly how to tell the story of E.T., and it began to flood into my mind. For the next couple of days during the shooting of Raiders, E.T. pretty much had a beginning, a middle, and an end. I had the opening. I had what happened at the end. I knew E.T. would have to go home. I knew E.T. would come into the life of a little boy who didn't have a father, who needed friendship, affection, the paternal guidance he wasn't getting from his mom, and that he would make friends with the alien. I had some of what happened in the middle of the movie, the government chasing the little boy and his new best friend, how he would somehow help the creature back to his ship at the end, end quote. So this is the tale he tells about how E.T. happened, that he'd been living with this idea for a long time. Like, he even said, like, when he was a kid, he was experiencing his parents' divorce. One way he coped is just sort of imagining this sort of wish where he would meet an alien and it would be his best friend. And he thought, I need to turn that into a movie. And it just lived in his head for 20 years. But finally he figures out the way to tell the story. And then on the set on set during the production of Raiders was Harrison's girlfriend and future wife, Melissa Mathison, who was a screenwriter. And she had just written the movie The Black Stallion, a horse movie. And Spielberg really liked that movie. And he approached her and asked her if she'd be interested in writing his Alien movie. And she said she didn't want to write sci-fi and she was actually feeling pretty down on herself as a writer. But he pressed her and eventually she did. She wrote a script in 8 weeks. And Spielberg said, quote, "It was inspired work on Melissa's part and it was ready to shoot the day I read the script." End quote. Casting the kids. All the kids, he says, are a combination of himself and the members of his family. He said, quote, "E.T. was really about the divorce of my parents. At the time when I did the press junket and met the reporters, I never said this was about the divorce of my parents." End quote. And he says this in the 2002 DVD of E.T. He says that basically for 10 years, he didn't tell anybody that this movie was inspired by the real life divorce of his parents. But then he finally came out and said it. And it was like, oh, big shock.
Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah.
That the divorce of your parents was a big deal to you.
Especially if it happened when you were 10. That is such I mean, I was 5.5 and still have vivid memories of it. But 10, you're way online in your head. I mean, you're collecting all those fucking memories.
Yeah.
I at least got to filter some of them out.
And you're like relating more to your parents as people and feeling like I need to help them if they're sad.
Yeah.
And ugh.
What, he has brothers and sisters?
He has sisters.
Older or younger?
He's the oldest brother of sisters. Yeah.
Yeah. That's interesting because he puts this on the middle kid in this movie, but being the oldest sibling of a family that is the struggles to keep the roles very clear. Mm-hmm. Being the oldest, I mean, the biggest burden is, I can only say because I'm the oldest and you're the oldest and that's my experience, but yeah, big burden on the shoulders.
Wait till you see The Fabelmans. You haven't seen it and you don't know what happens.
I do not. How
the divorce goes. It's insane because like he says how he learned about the divorce. He told a story in public that was different from the way it happened. And The Fabelmans shows what really happened. And it's like, oh my God.
Okay.
Excited for you to see that.
Great.
It's not like it's fine. It's not going to traumatize you or whatever.
Okay,
it's just interesting. Okay, he said Drew Barrymore was the first person, the first person he hired, the first actor he hired. The movie was Drew Barrymore, and she had the job as soon as he started talking to her. He said she started telling him that she's in a punk rock band that's about to tour the world. And he's like, oh, this kid's incredible. So he hired her. And he said he didn't even know that she was from the Barrymore dynasty of actors. No idea. Of course, the second part of that equation is the reason she's able to get a meeting with you, Steven Spielberg, is because she's from the
I was wondering why this 5-year-old had a lunch with me and it was just me and her.
Imagine that. And he could not find the right kid for Elliott. He said they were 5 weeks away from starting production and he'd met so many little actors and just couldn't find the right one. But then when...
half of them were named Corey. You know it.
Oh my God.
It had to be.
When they finally got Henry Thomas, he came in, they did a little improv exercise with him. And this was caught on film, so let's just watch it.
Now, young man, I understand that you have an alien somewhere in this house. Is that true?
And Mike Fenton, the casting director, played the government man.
Well, is it true?
Can't take him.
Well, I'm afraid I have to, son.
Can't take him away, he's mine!
But it's not my choice. The president asked me to come here and get him.
I don't care what the president says, he's my best friend! And you can't take him away!
And I got the part. It was the fastest auditioning process I've ever been on.
Okay, kid, you got the job.
Oh, yeah.
It just seems like child abuse to make a kid cry like
It is a weird as hell thing to do.
It is so weird. I mean, I hope he had a good childhood, but the more stuff comes out and more documentaries are made, and the more I learn about what it's like to be a child actor, and it all feels so wrong. But what do you do?
No, yeah, it's like, well, are the kids actually choosing to do the acting?
Tell me about Barrymore. Barrymore seemed impossibly bright and smart and funny and knowledgeable and like put together. Like it just, that is what is so mesmerizing about her is you're watching an adult with a tiny person voice and face in a sense. And then as soon as you said that, I forgot that she's
She had personal troubles and stuff that she came out of.
Yeah, no. But I forgot that she's a Nepo baby. And I was like, of course, she's been trained since like, is this something she even wants to fucking do? Yeah, she's good at it, but fuck.
And Henry Thomas is still a very successful actor. Still see him in a billion things, and I think he's a very good adult actor.
Yeah.
And unlike other like kids who make the transition into adults, like I don't see Elliott when I see him as an adult. I don't know if he ever had any but yeah, our kid is in theater right now, and
that's 100% their choice. They've always dabbled, did like a week here, like 1 week per year when they're little, and then they decide if they want to do the longer stretch of a month, and then if they do, they do, and it's always their favorite time of the year. So,
but of course, that's
such a natural,
super different from doing the movie business where you're,
and it's super different if this experience got it into our kids' head that they wanted to be an actor or be on Broadway or something, and so like, well, then I will. I'll do this year round. That would be the first step. And then I'll go to college for it. And there was nothing faster to get me to stop thinking I was going to be famous than to put me in fucking drama classes in college. I was like, nope.
Did you thought
that.
You wanted to be an actor?
Yeah. I thought I was going to be on Saturday Night Live. I mean, like I just felt made for it, except for insane stage fright to the point of vomiting. So I don't know what I was thinking. I just thought, oh, okay, well, I'll go to school for it. And then that'll give me credibility. And I'm sure everyone's this nervous. No, they're not. No, they're not.
But you perform on camera now.
Yeah, but it's all off the cuff. If and there's no way for anyone to anticipate what it is I'm going to do. But if you tell somebody I'm going to go sing a song that they know, or I'm going to dance with other people who know a dance, that is different. Then they exactly know what I'm supposed to do. And then I fucking freeze. That's why, like, if you and me were going to do a song together in front of people, I would have to insist that it were you. And then, like, literally 1 second and I'd be in the back. Now we're both, because I have to approach it like that. When we start it just cold, I'm standing next to you and I'm going to fucking sing. I want to die. Even when it's just in your living room of your parents, it's just, I want to die.
The Rural Route 9 song that you are a guest vocalist on, we've never performed it live, but I hope to do it one day. However, your part doesn't come in till 2 minutes into the song.
Yeah, but I'd have to get out of the audience and get up on stage. I
pull you off stage.
I couldn't.
Like
oh,
Courtney
I love
Cox.
that. Yes. I couldn't start on stage. No. I'd be like, oh, I couldn't. But nothing to mashed potatoes. I know that's not the song, and that's your part of this song. Okay.
Go check out the Bible Towers of Bluebonnet, everybody.
Give it a shot.
All right, Robert McNaughton plays Michael, and I think he's great as well. These are three really good little child performances. The puppet. How did they make this puppet? Well, there is artist Ed Verreau sketched the E.T. designs. Then Carlo Rambaldi designed the model. He had previously designed the aliens in Close Encounters. You can see a definite continuity between the aliens. And then the producer on the movie, Kathleen Kennedy, hired artist Beverly Hoffman of the Jules Stein Institute to paint E.T.'s eyes because
those are the most important part.
She said that's going to be everything. The key to everything is the eyes.
Yep. I wrote that down. Where did I write that? Oh, in my review on Letterboxd.
Load-bearing Lacey. There was a team of 12 puppeteers who operated E.T. the puppet remotely via remote control. They each operate a different component of him. At times, there were actors in the ET costume if he needed to walk around. So there were two little person actors, Pat Bilon and Tamara Detroux, who worked in the suit at different times. And then there was a child actor named Matthew Demerit who was born without legs. He walked on his hands. He did it at different times too. In the scene where E.T. gets drunk and falls over, that's him, and you can tell he's walking with his hands, and it's hilarious. It's great, and there's really charming footage of this kid behind the scenes moving around the set and stuff. And then a mime named Caprice Roth performed the hands. Spielberg said he wanted E.T.'s hands to have balletic movement.
They really, they're a lot. The hands are very important. It would have been easy to make them look like little penises, but luckily they don't. They just look like dildos.
Drew Barrymore says in the special, in the 2002 20th anniversary special, said like E.T. to her was real. She like intellectually understood that there are people operating him, but also he's real and I'm really interacting with him. And the puppeteers were like behind a wall and the kids are just interacting with this little machine puppet thing. And she pointed out, like, if they made him with CGI today, it would just, you would never get this.
Right.
And I think that when we complain about CGI, we're usually talking about what it looks like and the fact that it looks disembodied, that there's not real light hitting it, and it just looks artificial.
Sure.
But the other component is when it's actual actors interacting with a physical object, you believe it more because they believe it in a way that they can't if they're acting against a tennis ball or against nothing.
Or against the human that is that creature in the dumbest outfit, as is the case with Twilight and Jacob.
And you can be a great actor and still it's like, no, but
you're in a bodysuit with balls strapped all
Taylor
over you.
Lautner with balls on him. This movie was a phenomenon. It was number one at the box office for 16 total weeks. In 1983, it surpassed Star Wars to become the highest grossing film of all time. In its initial run, it made $360 million domestic, $619 worldwide. The studios would kill for those numbers today, unadjusted for inflation, as the movie industry collapses rapidly around us. And it was a merchandising phenomenon. Hershey's profits rose 65% because they own Reese's Pieces. And they initially wanted M&M's, but M&M wouldn't give up the license because they thought E.T. would be a scary movie. So they went with the upstart Reese's. I always knew that story, but I forgot that Reese's Pieces was owned by Hershey. So
it's like, way to go. Oh, shit.
Oh, the little engine that
Oh, you already could. Okay.
When Jaws was surpassed by Star Wars as the biggest movie ever, Steven Spielberg took out an ad showing R2-D2 with a fishing pole catching the shark from Jaws, saying, "Congratulations, George." When E.T. passed up Star Wars, George did the same thing.
Oh, I love that.
Took out a very charming ad with all the Star Wars characters holding up E.T. like he won. Yay.
It gave me goosebumps.
Oh, Steven.
I just love camaraderie, and like this is maybe is a stupid comparison, but like joining Film Talk, it's not like, oh, I'm going to jump on there and be an influencer and people are just going to flock to listen to me. No, you end up meeting other creators and a lot of other podcasters and everything. And like you come in around the same time and you kind of feel like you're coming up together and you both start to figure stuff out. But it's just such a nice thing to think of. Like, I can feel happy for people who I know are doing the same work and want the same things, and it happens at different times for different people, and maybe it never happens, but that the connections you're making are with real people who have similar goals. Can't we all just celebrate each other as long as the other person's not winning too much?
And with these guys, they're literally going back and forth.
Right.
So I have always wondered, like, they seem like actual friends. It's gone on forever, but are they really, or is it just for show? Everything I've read suggests it's real. They really are really great friends. They obviously work together on 4 Indiana Jones movies, among other things.
That's true. Some of this is joint success.
Yeah, and George Lucas's company, ILM, is doing effects for Spielberg movies, so he is invested in the success. Right. But that's also, that generation of directors, they all came up together and took over Hollywood from the old guard. All right, one last little thing. Speaking of Spielberg and Lucas, in 2002, Steven Spielberg pulled a George Lucas and made some digital changes to E.T. Shot some digitally enhanced effects, including adding a cape to Elliott as he flies on the bicycle so that it would match the Amblin logo and the poster of E.T. And in the most notorious example was he replaced the guns that the federal agents have with walkie-talkies, and people made endless fun of this. But
they still seem dangerous to me.
It is surprising when these agents just have a giant gun. Like, they're going to shoot these kids out of the sky.
But they were being reckless with them the whole time. The way they were driving around kids on bikes, like they could have killed one. It could have hurt, seriously, a child the entire time. So these random guns don't seem anymore. It doesn't help. If that's the vibe, it doesn't help. You still seem reckless with children.
I think the government as threat, as sort of uncaring, monolithic threat is great in this movie. Even though they have the one agent you get to know is like a good guy and is sympathetic, it is still like, yeah, they'll just come in and run over you and not mean it. It's just part of their job. Today we got to go get that alien. Okay, Spielberg, to his credit though, went back and said he had made a mistake. So in 2011, he gave an interview and he said, quote, "At this point right now, I think letting movies exist in the era with all the flaws and all the flourishes is a wonderful way to mark time and mark history." And then the interview says, "I wish you could talk to George into doing the same thing." And Spielberg says, well, I can't. George goes his own way and I respect him for it, but my new philosophy on this is to let sleeping dogs lie. When people ask me which E.T. they should look at, I always tell them to look at the original 1982 E.T. If you notice, when we put out E.T., he's talking about in 2002 when they did the special edition with the walkie-talkies, he said, we put out two ETs. We put out the digitally enhanced version with the additional scenes, and for no extra money in the same package, we put out the original 82 version. I always tell people to go back to the 82 version, end quote. But today, the only version you can access is the theatrical cut with the guns and without the cape. Okay, E.T. the Extra-Terrestrial. Let's talk about the movie.